95% of business owners today earn less than $50,000 a year. On today's show, we're going to be discussing some of the reasons why, and we'll be looking in on a rare interview I had with sales legend Brian Tracy. Brian is an international speaker, one of the country's top business leaders, and has authored more than 50 books. We'll be discussing things that we can do in our business and personal life to be gaining more success. If you feel like you're not living your life at your peak potential, you will not want to miss 1 minute of this episode. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We have an amazing show.
When visiting Gulf Shores, Alabama, make sure to visit the Gulf Coast Zoo, home of the little zoo that could from Animal Planet. Get up close in our petting zoo. Enjoy our unique animal encounters. More than 300 monkeys, bears, reptiles, big cats, parrots, and more call a Gulf Coast home. Come on, go wild at the Alabama Gulf Coast Zoo.
Come experience Nolan's. Savor award-winning steaks, Greek-style cuisine, fresh local seafood, and an extensive choice of wines. Whether you'd like to reserve the large private dining room, enjoy a meal on an outdoor deck, or rock the night away in our lounge, Nolan's now celebrating 25 years of exceeding your expectations for casual fine dining, live entertainment, and dancing nightly.
Welcome to our show. Welcome. You know, it's a great honor for me to be sitting down and interviewing Brian Tracy, which we'll be looking in on in a minute. Brian has actually been a very important fixture in my life for many years. In fact, at a very young age, I had some great advice. Somebody told me to start self-educating myself. And one of the people that I turned to at 18 or 19 years of age was Brian Tracy. I literally devoured anything I could get my hands on from Brian, and I owe him much of my success. So without further ado, let's take a look at a rare interview that we had. I'm here with my one of my mentors, I can actually say. I grew up reading. Brian Tracy is here today. And Brian, let me ask you, obviously you've been out there for many years. I know you've authored over 50 books, so you've spoken in over 61 countries. You've certainly done it all. But as you know, for the entrepreneur, it takes a certain mindset to be able to accomplish what you've done. Was there an aha moment where you said, you know, now I know the path I'm supposed to take, or, you know, I know I'm supposed to empower people, this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
Well, it's very much like cooking a dish in the kitchen. There's many ingredients. There's not just one, and all the ingredients have to go together. And so what we have found, the most important single ingredient for business success is that you have an excellent product or service to start with. And you're constantly looking for ways to make that product or service better for your customers. If that's the central focus of your business, whether it's an Apple or an IBM or a Mercedes-Benz, then you're going to be successful. And if that's not the central focus of your business, then you will not be.
Right. And in terms of personal development, what do you feel like maybe one of the, I think I know the answer because I was listening to your seminar moments ago, but what do you feel like one of your main focus has been, or your main key has been to your success?
Well, the most important word in business success is the word ask. You have to ask customers to buy. You have to ask for appointments. You have to ask for credit. You have to ask for business loans. You have to ask. But the joke that we say is the role of the small business owner is to ask people for money. Give me your money. And give them a good reason for them to give you their money. And this is your job. And if you're not asking people for money, you're not working. We say social networking is social not working. Is playing on the computer, working on the internet, is not asking people for money. Right. The only thing that's asking people for money is getting face-to-face, head-to-head, knee-to-knee, showing people that your product or service can really help them and asking them to buy it.
I was listening out when you were speaking, and you had mentioned that the key that you thought was really focus, that
Yes.
many people were lacking focus. And I mentioned to you a few minutes before we did the interview, I had the privilege of talking to Donald Trump last year, and I asked him what his one key factor was to his success, and he said the same thing. And you had referenced even Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. They say the same thing. So certainly it's something that all of you have figured out, but I was surprised at some of the statistics of the earnings of this country due to a lack of focus.
Yes, and the people are doing too many things during the day that are not generating revenue. So if you ask, what is the purpose of a business? Well, the purpose of a business is to create customers,
Right.
is to make sales. All right, so that if you're not creating customers and making sales, you're really not in business. You may be entertaining yourself, but you're not in business. And so we say the first 90 minutes of every day you should spend on either revenue generation or wealth creating, adding activities. If you're not spending the first 90 minutes on revenue generation or value creation, then start doing it. And then take a break and spend the next 90 minutes on revenue generation and wealth creation. And get into the habit of spending all of your time and the time of your most talented people on focusing on customers. Peter Drucker said there are no results inside the business. The results are outside the business where the customers are.
Right.
And everything else is preparation and warm up and warm
Busy
down.
work, yeah.
And people say, what about all this paperwork? Do it before customers are available to be seen and after customers are available to be seen. But when customers are available during the working day, you should spend 80 to 90% of your time talking to customers.
That's right, and the old 80-20 rule comes into play. And it seemed, you mentioned, focusing on one thing and not having all these balls in the air, so to speak. And it seems like as you have a little bit more success, that's when more people are approaching you with dangling carrots and opportunities. Yes. And in the beginning, it's a little bit overwhelming to not. You find yourself not taking your own advice, and you have 15 things you're doing. Yes. So obviously, it's easier said than done. It's a big problem that we all struggle with.
Natural tendency of entrepreneurs is to expand and try to do many, many little things that have little value. At a certain point, you have to stop and say, wait a minute, there's only 3 things that I do that generate revenue. And we call this the law of 3, which we talked about in this program. You've got to figure out what are the 3 most important things I do and do only those things. Have 3 goals each day and work only on those goals. Ask yourself, make a list of everything you have to do during the day, and ask yourself, if I could only do one thing on this list before I was called out of town for a month, which one activity would generate the most revenues or bring me the most success? And do only that until it's done.
Yeah, and I picked up in your talk, I was taking notes. In fact, when they wanted to come back here, I said, well, he's almost done. Let me just finish. But I know that even to this day, when you talk to different corporations, there's a couple of exercises that you put them through, sometimes even uncomfortable, and you had told them to make a list of everything they wanted to get done. And then the second thing that's a little bit more personal is to get all those things done, what would you have to do this year? And that's when we kind of look at ourselves and
Yes.
see the holes.
Well, you always start with idealization. If my business was perfect, what would it look like? And the greater clarity you have with regard to that at this time, the faster you'll achieve it. Then the second step is, what would I have to do starting today to create that ideal business? What would be the most important thing? What would be the second most important thing? And then take action.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, obviously, like I mentioned, you've written numerous books. I think we've spoken, you're currently just got done with 5, and you're working on a few more.
This is a busy year. I'll publish at least 8 books in this year.
Unbelievable. Well, I know you're going strong. Talk a little bit about your mentors coming up. As I said, that when I came into business very young, around 18, I was mass recruited by a sales company. They put me in a room and they said, look, the turnover here is about 2 weeks. And if you can make it a year, you'll probably have seniority to have an office, but no one makes it a year. And I really struggled for the first several weeks. And somebody literally pulled me aside and said, listen, man, you got to get some education. And he says, there's a guy named Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, and he says, buy anything you can find on these guys, and if you don't, you're dead. He actually said, you're going to die if you. And I didn't take the advice, I don't think, at the moment, and I was on the verge of getting evicted. It was just that young struggle, and I took his advice. I bought everything I could handle, and you were the ones that. But we're going to take a quick break. I want to come back. I want to talk a little bit about your mentors, who inspired you to have that mind shift to accomplish everything that you've done. More with Brian Tracy in a minute. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Real estate today offers incredible opportunities, low prices, and extremely low interest rates. Hi, I'm Amy Norris from Amy Sells the Beach. Right now, there are opportunities in all areas. Our team can help you put your money to work finding your dream or investment property. And if you're looking to sell, no one can give you better exposure to buyers and make your property stand out. Experience matters when looking for opportunity. I'm Amy Norris. See why we're #1 at amysellsthebeach.com.
When visiting Gulf Shores, Alabama, make sure to visit the Gulf Coast Zoo, home of the little zoo that could from Animal Planet. Get up close in our petting zoo. Enjoy our unique animal encounters. More than 300 monkeys, bears, reptiles, big cats, parrots, and more call a Gulf Coast home. Come on, go wild at the Alabama Gulf Coast Zoo.
Interview with Brian Tracy. And those of you out there that haven't had a chance to see Brian in action, we're going to show you a couple of minutes of what you've been missing.
Now, there was a dinner discussion with 3 gentlemen recently. Bill Gates Jr., the second, third richest man in the world, Bill Gates Sr., his father, and Warren Buffett. And they were at dinner, and somebody came up to them and asked, "You gentlemen are very successful. What is the key to success?" And all 3 answered without hesitating, focus. Focus is the key to success. Successful people are focused and unsuccessful people are not. Successful people focus on one thing, the most important thing, and they complete that task. And unsuccessful people try to do a whole lot of little things and they get very little done. In fact, we say multitasking actually lowers your IQ by 10 points. When you switch, you don't multitask. What you do is you switch from one task to another, and the switching costs are like turning a light or a battery on or off. It drains your mental battery. It actually makes you dumber to try to do several things at once, whereas it makes you smarter, more intelligent, and more motivated to focus and concentrate. So thinking is the most important thing that you do. So then the question is, the next question that I ask is, what is your most valuable financial asset? Again, it's kind of like a trick question. When I first learned it, again, it changed the direction of my thinking. With your most valuable financial asset is your earning ability. Your earning ability is the most precious thing that you have in the whole world. Your ability to earn money is, or what economists call your earning power, is as much as 80 or 90% of all of your value. You could lose your house, your home, your car, your clothes, everything, but as long as you still have your earning power, you could walk back out and start to pump tens of thousands of dollars a year into your life. The big difference between people today is we don't have an income gap, we have a skills gap. And this is University of Chicago Nobel Prize winning stuff. We have a skills gap. And what is the skills gap? Is some people have very high earning power. Is they're very good at what they do and they're getting better at things that are really important that people will pay them for, and other people do not. The 80-20 rule applies in states, it applies in society, but the top 20% of people have higher earning power, and their earning power is continually increasing. That's why you're coming to a conference like this, where you can learn ideas and techniques and get methods that will help you to increase your earning power, are very important, because it can have an effect on your whole life. You can change the entire quality of your life, the standard of living for your family, and so on, by upgrading your earning ability. Now, what is your earning ability? Your earning ability is your ability to get results that people will pay you for. People will actually give you money for the results. And the turning point in my life, when I was 24 years old, and I came from a poor family, and I labored for years, and I got into sales, and I struggled in sales. I had holes in my shoes. I did not ever miss a meal, but I did postpone quite a few indefinitely. And then I went and asked one of the top salespeople in the company what he was doing differently from me, and he told me, and I almost fell off my chair. I didn't realize that sales had a specific logical process. And if you follow the process in order, you make sale after sale, and if you don't, you don't.
You know, most professionals today, top professionals, will tell you the same thing that we've been discussing, and that is focus is the #1 key to success. Now let's get back to our interview. Brian, we were talking about, I kind of looked to you in the early years of my career as kind of a mentor, along with some of the greats like the Zig Ziglar and many others. And but I was curious to know, who were some of your mentors coming up that you had studied or that inspired you to take the path you did?
Well, I did the same thing you did. I became very aggressive about learning. I remember asking a top salesman for advice. He said, well, have you read any books on sales? And I said, are there books on sales? And I went down, I remember I went down to the bookstore and went to the sales section, and there's 2 or 3 rows of books. Today there's about 4,000 books on sales that are still being sold. Well, I remember I bought my first book and I began to read it, and it was by a sales manager who'd started off in the trenches and worked for 30 years, and he wrote down everything he'd ever learned. And I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And after that, I began to buy book after book after book. I read virtually every top sales book over the years. I read hundreds of books. And then I got into management. So I began to read every book on management I could find. Peter Drucker had a great influence on me because he was just so practical, so important on focusing on creating customers, focusing on satisfying customers, taking care of them, focusing on taking such good care that they buy again and again and recommend you to their friends and so on. And then I got into time management, and I realized, oh my Lord, time management determines whether or not you can use this material. So I studied time management for 10 years. I've got libraries full of time management.
Well, I have to tell you personally, time power like saved my life, because my biggest thing, and I was one of those entrepreneurs young that, you know, people would say, well, I got an opportunity for you, and I never wanted to turn anything down, and I found that I was trying to do all these things, and I picked up Time Power, and I must have been through that book a million times. To this day, I still have it in my closet that I pull out on a regular basis, and certainly helped me along as well. And I know today that you mentioned about investing in yourself, and it's funny, I never realized how much of your body of work has made it over the years, actually has become part of our culture. I was having a conversation yesterday, and this was before I even knew I would interview you, and there was a show that's going to come out called The Appearance Factor, and it's a top doctor that's going to have a health and wellness show. And we were in a room, and he said, you know, we want to get the point across about it's important to invest in yourself. And I actually found myself, without realizing, saying, well, you know, Brian Tracy says that, and I was talking to him about, you know, investing in yourself. I know you used to call it Automobile University, where you're constantly investing in yourself education-wise. And then I think I remember reading years ago in one of your books something about, you know, every dime that you invest in yourself, you get like $1 back, and it's the best investment you can make.
The minimum, if you learn something that will help you to get better results, your payoff can be 10, 20, 30, 50 times. I had one gentleman in my course recently, it makes me happy to think about it. He paid $75 for my course on selling, on CDs. And he said he increased his income the following year by $75,000, his personal income, listening to that program. So what he did, he's got 1,000 times. He's paid $75, he got $75,000 back. He said directly attributable, and higher income, he's already doing very well, directly attributable to what he learned in that course. And is that a good payoff?
That's an incredible payoff.
And the other thing is, because by practicing these things, he now owns these techniques for the rest of his life. So they continue to pay off year after year.
Unbelievable. And, you know, for the viewers out there that are contemplating, you know, maybe they've been laid off or they've had this vision for many years and they're saying, maybe I want to jump ship and finally pursue my dreams. Any advice you could give our viewers out there that are looking to get all in and kind of pursue their careers?
Well, number one is to have a good product or service to start with. The product or service has to be superior to its competition in 3 ways. It's called the rule of 3. It has to be faster, better, cheaper, more convenient, easier to use. And sometimes the very fact that you sell it and you service it yourself can make it different from anybody else's. And second of all, it has to be vigorously sold. Nothing sells itself in a competitive market. So you've got to be thinking about sales all day long. And then third of all, you've got to take really good care of your customers after they buy. So great product or service in comparison to your competitors. It does something that the customer really wants and needs is willing to pay for. That's number one. Number two is market and sell it all the time. The whole essence of business is marketing strategy, attracting customers and converting them to buy. Right. And the third is take such good care of them that they stay with you and buy again and again.
Right. Well, that's absolutely great advice. And Brian, I know we've talked that you've authored many best-selling books and just amazing body of work. I think of personally Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, or Time Power, as we mentioned, or Eat That Frog was one of my favorites. Recently, you did release The Power of Self-Discipline, and it's right on the cover, No Excuses. What's next out of Brian Tracy International? What are some of the things we can look forward to, get our hands on, so to speak?
Well, I'm doing a whole series on management subjects like motivation, how do you motivate your staff? Negotiation, how do you get the best deal every time? Time management, how do you use your time really well, but in a short book. Delegation, how do you delegate to people a critical skill? But also leadership skills. How do you lead? How do you manage? How do you set goals? How do you establish a vision? How do you become a better and better person? Because the rule is this, is your company, business only gets better when you get better.
Right.
As you work on improving yourself on the inside, the operations and profits of your business increase on the outside.
And I heard you make the point just a few moments ago that the one skill set that you're lacking in, or I should say that your best skill set can really set the bar of what your income potential is.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's reversed to the whatever your negative, the things you haven't developed yourself.
Yes.
Can really.
What we found, and this is a great breakthrough, is your weakest key skill sets the height of your income. Your weakest key business or sales skill. So you always have to ask this question. If you could wave a magic wand and be absolutely excellent at any one skill overnight, which one skill would help you the most to increase your sales and profitability? Now that is the great question because there's always an answer to it. And you always know the answer. And sometimes you don't like the answer. But you can say, well, if I was really good at marketing, if I could write really good advertising that would attract more and more people, well, it's a learnable skill. You can learn the skill, or at the very least, you can hire somebody who already has it. But you've got to be clear what's the one skill that can help you the most to increase your sales and profitability as a business owner. And then focus on developing that skill.
Well, I'll tell you, it's such a great honor for me to sit here with you, Brian. And when I think of, in our generation, you know, the Earl Nightingales and the Dale Carnegies of our generation, certainly you're the man that comes to mind for me. And I know that, you know, there's probably 3 or 4 names. Recently, we know that the great Zig Ziglar passed away. I'm sure you were dear friends with.
Friends for decades, for more than 20 years.
It was certainly a loss, but we appreciate you going strong. Now, I did read on your blog, I guess a couple of years ago, you had battled throat cancer that you had announced, and that you've beat it like everything else in your career. So we wish you much continued success with your health and with your career. And go out now and The Power of Self-Discipline, Power of Self-Discipline, No Excuses. It's available everywhere. Go get this book. Brian Tracy, everybody.
Come experience Nolan's. Savor award-winning steaks, Greek-style cuisine, fresh local seafood, and an extensive choice of wines. Whether you'd like to reserve the large private dining room, enjoy a meal on an outdoor deck, or rock the night away in our lounge, Nolan's, now celebrating 25 years of exceeding your expectations for casual fine dining, live entertainment, and dancing nightly.
Real estate today offers incredible opportunities, low prices, and extremely low interest rates. Hi, I'm Amy Norris from Amy Sells the Beach. Right now, there are opportunities in all areas. Our team can help you put your money to work finding your dream or investment property. And if you're looking to sell, no one can give you better exposure to buyers and make your property stand out. Experience matters when looking for opportunity. I'm Amy Norris. See why we're #1 at amysellsthebeach.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. You know, we hope you enjoyed our interview with Brian Tracy. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of having extreme focus in our lives. In fact, there's a saying in business that says that if we chase two rabbits, we don't get either. And today, because of financial strain, many entrepreneurs find themselves chasing many rabbits. One reason why focus is so hard today in our society is because things have become so hectic. We have so many places to be and so many things to do. But you know, a recent study showed that out of what consumes our mind on a daily basis, 40% of it is things that have already happened to us in the past that we cannot change. Another 40% of what consumes our minds is speculating on things in the future that are never going to happen to us. And really only 20% of what we're focusing on are things we should be focusing on. Things that are really going to move the needle and give us more success. I call this the fog effect. What is the fog effect? Well, have you ever been in a city like San Francisco or Seattle, and the fog is so thick you can't see the bumper in front of you? In fact, from an aerial view, if you saw a city with fog 100 feet deep and 10 city blocks, they say the components that would make up all of that fog could actually fit into 1 cup of water. And really, this is what happens to us as entrepreneurs. We become so busy with life, with dealing with problems, we get so fogged out, we literally can't see the bumper in front of us. Or maybe we can't see the next business deal. Or we start missing simple things in our business that we could normally take care of. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and, well, quite frankly, feel like we're drowning. So again, take Brian's advice. Get up early, evaluate what your 20% is, and get rid of the fog. Get rid of the busy work. And if you find yourself becoming overwhelmed during your day, take a break, split your focus, get energized before coming back to the task. Again, I hope you enjoyed our episode today. And I want to tell you, don't forget to get involved in your local community and be forgiving of others. Good night, everybody. Hi, I'm Dan Vega, entrepreneur and host of the Gulf Coast's favorite new talk show, Tuesdays with Dan. Join us every Tuesday where we come together and share success principles that will not only help you in your business, but in your personal life. Don't worry, this isn't some boring business talk show. It's an opportunity not only to hear from your favorite entrepreneurs and celebrity guests, but to receive real value every week. Check us out late night after Jimmy Kimmel and The Insider, or at 8 a.m. on My 35. You won't want to miss it.